Appreciate everyone joining us again. First off, we want to apologize for yesterday's technical difficulties. I know a lot of you couldn't hear the beginning of the presentation. We had a little bit of an internet issue that muted the mics when it came back online. So appreciate everybody's time yesterday. So we're just going to dive in again. So I know some of you folks missed the beginning of it. So we'll go from there. All right. Just quick intros again. I'm Nick Pelucio. I'm the account executive on the Autodesk side. I've been with TPM for going on 6 years now. We have Corey Gaddy here with us. I'll let Corey introduce himself.
Good afternoon. My name is Corey Gaddy. I'm one of our technical solutions consultants here at TPM. I teach and train on Autodesk as well as Bluebeam. Been with the company for 6 years now. I came out of the civil engineering space, and my goal is to kind of get the design community standardized through training and templates. And so we're going to go through a webinar this afternoon, and we're going to talk about Autodesk Vault and data transformation.
All right, just a few housekeeping items before we get into it. I know we had originally scheduled for an hour. We're probably going to be able to get this all through between 20 and 25 minutes. Then we're going to start off with who TPM is. And then we're going to dive into data management in Vault. And then at the end, we can ask some questions, go over some questions. Just to kind of go over it with TPM. So TPM, we are a Autodesk partner. We specialize in AEC and manufacturing. Then we also are a Bluebeam partner, and then we have our TroubleHook, our sister company, and that is a CRM built for the AEC industry. Then we also provide hardware products. So some of the hardware that we provide is Markforged, 3D Systems, and HP for your 3D printing needs. Then we also provide Leica. We're a partner with Leica, so we do sell Leica 3D laser scanners. And then we have a professional service side of our business as well. We have our BIM VDC department. We do 3D modeling and 3D laser scanning as a service. And then we also have our basic technology consulting, anywhere from training intermediate to advanced to custom training within Autodesk, Bluebeam, products. Just a quick introduction to what we're going to cover today. We're going to discuss data management. Some of the benefits that we're going to touch is the central source of truth, how data gives you metrics to set expectations within an organization. And we're also going to go over how important data is in decision making within your business, and also help project future decisions.
All right, so there are a few key components for data management and good, effective data management. Data organization is one of them. So what you put into the product is going to affect sort of the output. So junk in, junk out mentality. We're also going to talk about data collection, and we're going to look at the full life cycle of the product. So you want to think full life cycle management of the data when you're thinking data collection. We're also going to talk about data intelligence. So we're going to touch on parametric and metadata. Then we want to look at data analysis. So now that you have this data available to you, what appropriate dashboards and reports can we use as a result of this data? And then lastly, we're going to talk about data protection. And so we want to make sure that we have data loss prevention and we have a good way to archive the data at the end of the project. So for data organization, good data management is going to start with some sort of document, an SOP, so a standard operating procedure for how we're going to go about utilizing this data. And then we want to have this process be documented. And then we want to make sure that our data folder structure is set and organized. And lastly, we want to have a gatekeeper of the process. So someone that manages the whole process, where the files are stored, what their name, and sort of manage the data from start to finish.
Some of the biggest pain points that we hear from our customer is files being overwritten or disappearing in general. So this is some of the stuff that this is some of the applications that Vault can provide in cleaning up your data.
Yeah, it's good to have some sort of version control when it comes to data. so that you know you have the latest and greatest and the proper version of the data is important. So then for data collection, when you think about your process for how you're going to receive this data and store the data, you really want to think, all right, where is this data starting and where is it going to end up? So the full life cycle, so that you can have all those considerations along the way in the process. And so that comes from file creation. So what do you name those files and how do you give your file nomenclature? And then how do you manage these files? So where are they stored? What folders are they in? And then you have administrative control. So you want to make sure you have permissions set when it comes to data so that you can prevent users that don't need to overwrite files or don't need to delete files from having access to do so. And the last thing you want to look at is the file connectivity. So if these files are going to come together, how are you going to bring them together into one overall file and make sure that process is proper?
One other thing to capture here is security. A lot of our customers that we work with, they're concerned about their employees leaving and what's happening with that data. With Autodesk Vault, you can easily unassign and reassign the licenses. So this way it gives you a peace of mind that former employees are not leaving with your data.
That's right. Yeah, you can unassign, reassign users, which is very important so that if you have some protected data, that data doesn't leave with that employee and that you're able to maintain that data and keep it secure for your company. So we talk data intelligence. Two of the main things we want to touch on are parametric and metadata. So when you think of parametric data, you're thinking analysis. So graphs, bar graphs, or pie charts that analyze the data and the information associated with it. When you're thinking metadata, you're thinking who made the files. So the author of the files, when it was saved, all that kind of information. The data about the data is what metadata really is. When it comes to inventor, you're thinking iLogic and iProperties are some of the key terms that come up for data intelligence. And then the last thing is part catalog. So you're probably going to be receiving and accessing parts from an external resource somewhere. And so you want to make sure that you have those parts accessible to your company and stored properly for your company. All right, so we touched a little bit on data analysis, meta, and parametric. And so you can take the data in a parametric format and sort of create a dashboard or reports from that data. And then some of these reports might actually allow you to see your resource usage. So how many users do you have of the software? How are they using it effectively? Kind of thinking. You also want to be able to track your project status. So where you are in the process of the project. Are you in the conceptual phase? Are you in the design phase? Maybe you're into the approve phase. So dashboards and reports can help you to track that process as well. And then when it comes to your accounting, you want to be able to have that data associated with some sort of ERP system so that you can look at billing and accounting for that project. And then when you have a lot of files and different parts associated with the project, you want to be able to take those files and do some sort of cost estimation or bill of materials from those files. And that allows you, with that, as well as the billing and accounting, allows you to create some sort of project revenue analysis where you can look to see, how much money is being made on this project. And it also allows you to forecast for the future. Hey, do I want to do this project again, a project similar to this? Or, maybe we go a different route for the future on this project. So forecasting is going to be important to be able to grab that from the data as well.
Yeah, and some of the best parts of this data is that all departments can kind of connect. It's a way for all the departments, accounting, estimating, engineers, design. So it's able to everybody to kind of get a full picture of what's going on inside your business.
Yeah, to have connected data is super important. To have ERP connected to your system to be able to create bill of materials, and have this data flow in and out of different departments is definitely beneficial. So when it comes to data protection, you have these files, it could be thousands of files. And so you want to make sure you have a way to protect these files from getting lost. And in some ways you would do that is through backups. So maybe you have a backup of your entire server, that data protection, or you could have a server replication. So maybe you have a second server that mimics the first server and just have that information backed up. And that way everyone has access to the latest and greatest information in that replication process. When it comes to the files themselves, you're thinking lifecycle states. So you want your system to be able to tell, where you are in the process and the life of the file. So whether that's work in progress, whether it's it's released, or whether maybe it's in the archive phase at the end of the project. So you want to have some way to know, hey, what's the approved state of the data at the end of it? All right, and then version control is going to be important as well. So you want to know, hey, what's the latest and greatest file? And you want to have some way of tracking what version we're on now, maybe who created that version, and making sure that those versions are protected. And then at the end of the project, you want to be able to close out the project, have some method by which you do that. And then where do you end up storing this data at the end of it? Where is this data archived at? Is important to retain access to that data.
I know I said this before, but another important feature of this is the file overwriting. You have a lot of designers, engineers that are in their process working on a file and then losing it, overwritten, and they have to redo the work again. And it's costing organizations money having to do that, having to pay departments or to do all that rework on there. So again, it's a huge benefit.
Yeah, a lot of the budget of the project could be spent, just doing that rework, and that's really not worked into the original scope of the project to have to go back and do this phase over or recreate that part. So having the ability to kind of track that and control that is super, super important. All right, so let's talk about Autodesk Vault now. We talked about proper effective use of data management. So how does Vault play into this whole process? Well, with Vault, one of the nicest things about Vault is that for Inventor, for Revit, for AutoCAD, there's a Vault plugin. So you can, at the beginning of the project, you create a new file. You can click on the Vault plugin and go ahead and get those files deployed into the Vault. Now, if it's an existing project, maybe you weren't working in the Vault initially, and you have existing files, then Vault also has the autoloader for Vault. So you can take that autoloader and go ahead and upload an entire folder for the project into the Vault. And when it comes to the life of the project, Vault does have lifecycle states. So you can have lifecycle states set up that'll indicate the status of the file and the status of the project. And so you can have it set to where when you save the file, it will request for you to indicate the lifecycle or the state of that file. Then you can also take those files and incorporate those files using that file intelligence into a BOM. So you can have an assembly and then have all the parts associated with that assembly incorporated into a bill of materials. When it comes to interfacing with your clients and whoever your customer might be, Vault provides a web viewer, a thin client for customer interfacing access to data. So if they want to just get in and see kind of where we are in the process, get a quick visual over the part and the file, they can do that through the thin client. They don't have to have Vault Professional and all that set up and installed. They can use the thin client and web viewer to do that. When it comes to interfacing with other departments and having that interconnectivity, there are integrations for PLM and for ERP systems that you can have connected to the Vault. There's a ton of different integrations for different types of PLM and ERP systems that you can have connected to your Vault. All right, when we talk about backups and having data protected and preventing data loss, then Vault also has a database management sort of system set up with the backup and restore wizard that you can set frequencies for how often you back up the Vault, or you can just periodically manually back up the Vault as well. And then you also have the ability to restore previous versions of those files using the Vault also. So you want to make sure you don't lose that data, or if you decide to go back to a previous design, you have access and the ability to do that. All right. So what we're going to do right now is that I'm going to jump into the product for a second before we get into anything else further. And so I just want to show you really quickly some of the things that we mentioned. And so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. All right. So I mentioned, in terms of accessing the Vault inside of Inventor, there's the Vault tab. So I can click on that tab and I can go ahead and click on the Vault. And that will connect me to my Vault. So I can access the Vault really quickly there through that tab. It opened up on my other screen, so I can bring that over. So here's now the vault accessed from Inventor. Then if I click on, say, an assembly, like this main assembly here, then now you'll see all the parts associated with that assembly. So there's each part associated with that assembly. If I click on one of the parts, it will give me some of that intelligence. So I can see if the file is checked out, checked in. Okay. I can look to see when it was modified and by who. As I go down and look at the part, it's showing me the revision. So where we are in the revision, what version we're on. Okay, part numbers. So a lot of information you can have associated with that part and get additional information for that part. You will see the ability here to look at the life cycle, where we are in the life cycle of the part as well. Right. Now, when it comes to deploying files to the vault, okay, you have the autoloader as well. So here's the autoloader wizard. So you just go through the steps here in the autoloader. You'll end up selecting a folder that you want to upload, and then go through the steps, and it'll upload the entire folder from whatever location you select into the vault. Now, on the server side of things, here is that backup restore data management. So here is your data management server console, and it'll show you the number of days since the last backup, if it's backed up or not. And then through here, if you go to your tools, then you have the option to go ahead and back up or restore the project. And you can decide if you want to go full, incremental, and so on for that project. All right, so that's what I want to show you related to the vault and everything associated with the vault. Questions?
Yeah, just one other thing I wanted to add on here was files can be uploaded vault outside of Autodesk files. So you can do your PDF files and your Excels, etc. Especially those folks within your organization that are not going to be working with Autodesk, or they're going to be doing accounting. They're able to upload their files in there as well. So it's not just Autodesk files.
Yeah. And then when it comes to access to the vault, we talked about you can unassign and reassign users, and the software is used on a per user basis. So each user that's going to be working in the vault, you'll want to have access to a seat of the software.
Yeah, and that was some of the questions that we got yesterday. Does each person need their own license? And there's different levels of the license depending on who's using the software. Another question that we had is is a part of the product design manufacturing collection. A Vault Basic is, but the Vault Professional, the check-in, check-out, which most design schemes, they need the Vault Professional. Some of the other questions that we got were, do you only have to use this with Inventor? No, AutoCAD files, DWG files will go in there as well. Those are some of the high topic questions that we got yesterday.
Yeah, those are the questions we got yesterday. So I'm going to go ahead and share again, and we'll make sure that we have the our information available.
Yeah, absolutely. So if there's any interest and you want to do a little bit more of a live demo or just have a conversation, every organization, business is different, have different workflows. We'd be more than happy to discuss it with you and do a live demo. If there's any need for additional licensing or training opportunities, feel free to reach out to me. You can always go on our website, make sure you follow our socials. Appreciate your time. And again, I want to apologize for the disruption yesterday, and we appreciate everyone's time and glad everyone can make it yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.